dictionary, they would have said a person would have turned to stone. There was two separate blasts. This is similar to what we would expect on same thing with Sodom and Gomorrah. You have the sulfur pellets that came down. There's evidence of that, and that sulfur is at a higher grade than what can be mined in any sulfur mine in the world. I think the highest sulfur grade in the mines are like 40, 43, 46% purity. These sulfur pellets are around, I think, 92 to 93% purity. That sulfur did not originate from Earth. There is evidence of catastrophic events. If we look at it, here's a map showing some of the impacts. And this is not counting the ones that hit the oceans. Mars has, I think it's 90, 94%, something like that, of its meteor craters on half of its hemisphere. And that's the southern half. And the reason for that, Mars at one time was near half of its hemisphere, the southern half, crossed the debris field of Planet X. Planet X is on the Earth's planetary plane. Mars at one time, the lower half crossed into the debris field. That's why you have only the lower half of this planet being hit. And that scar on Mars is caused when it was bumped. And that put it into another 2 to 3 degree higher orbit. Mars is no longer near Earth's planetary plane. It's slightly off. Therefore, there's no more hits on it. It's the same thing with the moon. The backside of the moon, about 4 times more meteor craters. At certain given points in time, it shielded sections of Earth from being hit.
I see. I understand. Most of the planets have been, their orbit has been pervaded to some degree by this planet, haven't they?
Yes. Let's say like Pluto used to be a moon for Neptune. It's on a very steep orbit now. It's no longer, it's listed as a protoplanet, a dwarf planet. Then you have, debris field that I can show you, that which is near Jupiter, which we cannot explain. You able to see this right here?
Yes. Yes, we can.
This is the debris field following Jupiter around. Now that's either destroyed moons that used to be of Jupiter, or the moons of this planet that collided into Jupiter or something like that. There's some sort of collision because they're in groups, okay, which is very unusual. And then we have, after that, we have Ceres, the asteroid belt of Ceres. It had a head-on collision with this planet, and that's what caused the destruction of Ceres, which is now called the asteroid belt. This is the asteroid belt of Ceres here in the middle. After that, it came around. Matter of fact, there's no evidence of Venus existing because if you look at Venus, you're going to see some craters that don't have a concave base to it. They're flat with a shallow rim. Those are not impacts from meteors. Those are plasma impacts. You have plasma can throw like a lightning bolt between two planets 2 or 3 kilometers wide. And what it does, it erodes the surface, and it's able to make these craters where they're flat and with a very shallow rim. You're going to see those on the planets that Planet X passes near, but they're not shown on other planets.
When the comets do that, that's what makes the electrical connection between them, correct? When it throws the planet out and it connects from one planet to the other, then those planets are literally electric connected, right? Electrically connected.
Yes, we have, like I said, physics department is making greater gains in this area than the astronomy department, because the astronomy department is hooked on the universe ruled by gravity. And the physics department tells us that that's the weaker force, that the ruling force for the universe is electromagnetic, and that the vacuum of space is not a true vacuum, that it's filled with plasma, and that we have an electric universe. Well, this was proven out just recently because the physicists predicted when the comet Siding Springs would pass by Mars that it would cause an electric discharge between the two objects. According to astronomy, well, the tail is supposed to be ice crystals, and that there wouldn't be. Well, it proved out that when this comet passed by, there was electrical or lightning bolts between the two, proving that the tail of a comet is plasma. So,
Yes. Let's if you will, for a moment, will you when you finish on this segment, will you go to the sky disk and explain the sky disk of Nubra for everybody?
sure,
Nebru for
sure.
everybody.
Joseph of Egypt here. Remember the 7-year drought he had? Well,
Mhm.
according to our data, you have 3.5-year drought coming in until it reaches perihelion, the closest point to the sun, and then you have 3.5-year drought as it's leaving. Remember also that Joseph had a dream at age 16 that he saw the stars, 11 stars bowing to him, and it said the sun and the moon. Well, that word sun is actually probably illuminated body, because you can't see the stars if the sun is out. So if he saw stars and moon, it's probably not the star, it's probably our object right here. And how do we know that? Well, here's a disc from Germany. That's a bronze disc that has a gold leaf representing different constellations. Also, the moon and the sun is there, as well as the, you see, horizons are shown as those bars on each side, as well as the base. I disagree with the present findings that the museum and some professors have given. This is their view of it right here. They call this sun ship at the bottom here, and they call this constellation it's your radius or whatever it's pronounced. I also disagree with a couple of these planets here, and I believe that this blank circle here is a planet as well. And they missed that the moon is pointing in the wrong direction. The illuminated side of the moon should be facing the sun. And they're saying that this is an eclipse caused by the moon. Well, it takes a full moon to cause an eclipse, not a crescent moon. And it's showing the crescent moon to the right of it. If it's a crescent moon, that's several days out of phase from a new moon. And what they're doing actually here is showing us a unusual event that they were documenting. Let me show you what I had. Now this is their date. They're showing that it was April 16, 1699 BC, and that they were looking for a normal eclipse. And I'm going to prove to you that this is not what the disc is saying. This is my misinterpretation of the disc. First, you have to reverse the moon. Then you have to misidentify the bars right here. The bars on the outside here are the eastern and western horizon, and this bottom one is actually the horizon in front of the observer. It's a river or river bank, which we can see right here. This at the bottom right here is the ancient observatory in Gothic, Germany. The Niebuhr disk was found about 20 miles southeast of this in a colony called Niebuhr. But I believe that the disk was actually made at this observatory. From this observatory, if you can see where the old river passed, they had changed the river because they had built a dam here, and they changed the course of the river. But the old river came down here, and that's what the disc is showing here. This is the horizon in front of the viewers. Once we misidentify this correctly, we come up with a different date than what they're showing here. And we come up with April 6, 1810 BC. You can see the moon right here. You see how it's reversed, the shadow?
Yes.
And if you look at...
They had it backwards.
Yeah, because the fabricator didn't have enough room to put it the correct way. So you would be looking in the wrong time period for the moon. You'd be looking for a normal eclipse that's only like they were looking for like a 25-day-old moon when it's only 3. If you look at the way this pattern is, this is Mars, Mercury, and they had, I think, Venus right here. It's actually Jupiter. And you see the other planet right here, Venus.
Right.
And this is the third object that I placed in there, causing an eclipse. Here is Pleiades here, and now you can see Monsieur Orion, the constellation. You see this red line right here. This represents the Monsieur Horizon from Germany. What's unique is they cannot see Monsieur Orion whenever from this month in April, when you have Gemini and Capricorn framing the view. That gives you the exact month or day. You have to go to the latitude of Luxor, Egypt, to be able to see it. That means the Earth tilted 26 to 28 degrees when this planet passed by.
So what we're going to have, if we can sum it up kind of, and I want you to elaborate on this, when this occurs, we're going to have meteor showers, we're going to have tsunamis, we're going to have earthquakes, we're going to have everything kind of happening at one time. Is that correct?
Yes. What's interesting is the data points in the Bible of the stories are not by accident. They're giving us the data for the last story of the Bible. They're giving us the we can combine the data and look at the model and expect some interesting things to happen. It says in the Bible that this next pass is the worst time in Earth's history, is the literal quote out of the Bible. That's a pretty bold statement.
Everybody needs to get their act together, don't they? Everybody needs to get closer to God, and everybody needs to just do what they're supposed to, you know?
Yeah. The two objects are getting close to their time of crossing. Earth is going to re-enter into this plasma tail. And I showed this model to a physics professor. He took a while to study it. Then he turned to me, he told me, he says, this is the first time anyone's been able to explain this event logically. Because if Earth is passing through ice particles, it won't rotate and slow down and have 12 hours of extended daylight. It can only happen if we enter into plasma. So Earth is going to enter into the tail again. And it's going to 24 to 28 hours later, it's going to come to a complete stop. Now, if that happens, the centrifugal forces of the ocean, your water is going to gravitate to the North and South Pole. Of course, that would take maybe weeks to do, but we only have hours, so you're going to only have a partial effect of coastal flooding in the northern and southern regions, and you're going to have the coastlines around the equator where the water is going to recede in great depths. Then, as this planet, about 6 hours prior to its arrival, where it gets even with us, is where we'll start to have the magnetic effects. It's like two bar magnets being attracted to each other. You're going to see Earth start to tilt towards it, and it'll take about 6 hours. And that's 1,800 miles of Earth's surface. That adds up to 26 to 28 degrees. So you're gonna have winds roughly around 300 miles an hour. If you're 90 degrees from the axis of tilt, that axis of tilt is going to be somewhere near Jerusalem, according to the text of the Bible. When Earth starts to tilt, it's going to have a pivot point closer to the Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of the other one, is where the axis of tilt is. And if 90 degrees from that tilt, which is this zone here I have covered, you're looking at roughly about 300 mile an hour winds as it tilts. That's right through South America, and it's right through Australia, the Philippines, all of that area. You're looking at the Arctic Circle to come roughly down to Washington, D.C. with freezing winds. You're looking at steel structures that may shatter because they're not used to that type of winds and that cold. That cold is going to make the steel very brittle, and then with the high winds, they'll shatter. And you're looking at also the pumping facilities, the water pumps, at nuclear power plants and stuff to fail because they'll freeze. So you want to be at the pivot point of the axis of tilt, which is roughly around the Middle East area.